Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is rejecting from this exact level of resistance as more liquidity is building just above the price of Bitcoin in the short term, as Michael Saylor just announced another massive Bitcoin purchase, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside the fact that Ethereum and Solana is still currently holding above these very important levels on the price chart, at least for now. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, taking a look at some Bitcoin news today, because Michael Saylor has once again just announced that Strategy bought a lot more Bitcoin. This time around, Strategy, the company, has bought almost 5,000 Bitcoin in one purchase. So we're talking about 4,980 Bitcoin that they acquired for over $500 million, around $532 million approximately, at an average price of around 106.8K per Bitcoin. And in case you're wondering, Strategy, the company, now currently holds almost 600,000 Bitcoin that they acquired for a total of $42 billion, over $42 billion. So once again, around 597,000 Bitcoin, almost 600,000 Bitcoin that Strategy is currently holding. And so Strategy alone is holding almost 3%. They're closing in on 3% of the total maximum supply of Bitcoin, but realistically, out of the relatively liquid supply of Bitcoin that can actually be moved around, this is quite a large portion of the liquid supply of Bitcoin. Because in case you're new to all of this, if you're new to Bitcoin, you might not already know, but for example, Satoshi Nakamoto is estimated to hold roughly 1 million Bitcoin, and then there's also estimated to be millions of Bitcoin lost forever. And of course, a lot of people out there want to just hold Bitcoin and have no plans of selling for many years to come. And so when you consider all of that information, and also considering the fact that there's still over 1 million Bitcoin left to be mined out of the total supply, of course, there's only really a few million Bitcoin, give or take, that's actually relatively liquid that can be bought or sold around the current prices before you have to start pushing the price much higher to tempt other Bitcoin holders to start selling their Bitcoin for much higher prices. And so, at least in my opinion, this is just speculation, but in my opinion, I think this is part of Strategy's strategy in order to basically cause a supply squeeze, pushing the price, forcing the price towards the upside once they capture enough of the supply of Bitcoin to the point where there's really no sellers at the current price. So anyone that wants to buy Bitcoin has to bid for higher prices to tempt existing Bitcoin holders to sell their Bitcoin at those much higher prices. And so even though these individual purchases here don't necessarily have an immediate impact on the price of Bitcoin, because they utilize strategies to actually buy Bitcoin without immediately impacting the price, so that they can accumulate a lot more at these slightly lower prices compared to what Bitcoin may be in many years from now. But even though these do not directly impact the price straight away, once again, over the long term, once there's enough of the supply taken off the market, this can cause a supply squeeze and force the price towards the upside over the long term if this buying continues. And so just keep this in mind. Fundamentally speaking, when we're talking about the supply and demand for Bitcoin over the long term, over many years from now, this is very bullish for the price of Bitcoin over the super long term. But of course, during the long term, if we're zooming in, obviously we could see short-term pullbacks and the occasional bear market here and there. So keep that in mind. But if you're looking to hold Bitcoin over 5 or 10 years, at least in my opinion, as always, not financial advice, Bitcoin's looking very bullish over the very long term. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on this weekly time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, at least for now, the weekly Bitcoin MACD is still showing a lack in momentum. And now this is not necessarily bearish, but at the same time, once again, it's not showing a lot of bullish momentum. So honestly, this is pointing towards potentially a continued sideways consolidation as one of the most likely outcomes here for at least the next few weeks, possibly longer, possibly even over a period of months, but at least over the next few weeks or so, I do continue to expect a bit more choppy sideways price action, consolidating sideways as one of the most likely outcomes. And obviously, that's exactly what I've already been saying now for weeks now on the channel. And if we're looking at what has happened over the last few weeks, that's exactly what has already started to play out as I've been predicting for weeks. And so not much has changed on this chart over the last one day. And the same can be said about this weekly Bitcoin price chart here, at least for now, we still have higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI, which is indeed a bearish divergence, telling us to not expect a significant amount of bullish momentum. So keep that in mind. The larger timeframes over the last one day have not really changed all that much. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, we can see that we are slowly moving towards a possible bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. But overall, honestly, we're not really seeing a lot of momentum to either direction. We're not looking overly bullish or overly bearish on this 3-day time frame. We're looking very neutral right now. And when it comes to support and resistance on this daily time frame, based on this Fibonacci retracement tool, we have a lot of support at approximately 98,000, give or take, and also at around 103,000, and a lot of resistance in between around 110 to 112,000 at around the all-time high. But before we can start hitting those slightly higher prices here, of course, we have this descending line of resistance, which just over the last one day, in fact, over the last few hours or so, we've perfectly rejected from this exact level. We are starting to struggle at this level, as we can see, and that's sitting at close to 109,000, really just under 109,000. So more specifically around 108.7k to 108.8k. Around there, we have this line of resistance, as we can see. And in case you're wondering, this line of support is still sitting at just above $100,000 per Bitcoin, acting as key support. And technically, we still have this falling wedge pattern that is currently forming. But ultimately, in order to confirm the bullish price targets for this possible bullish price pattern, we need to first confirm a breakout above this key level of resistance here, with at least a daily candle close confirming above that level, ideally above around 109,000, and then actually holding that as support. We don't necessarily have to see a retest, but that'll just be extra confirmation. But at the very least, we need to at least see a confirmed breakout, so a candle close above this level, in order to actually confirm the price targets. And in case you're wondering what those technical price targets would be for this price pattern and what my exact trading strategy would be, planning to make money from this possible breakout, of course, check out my last video here on the channel, because in that video that I posted just yesterday, I went a little bit more in detail about this price pattern and the price targets and a trading strategy. But if you want to get set up, ready to go to take the next trading opportunity in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, obviously you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page where you can claim some massive trading bonuses. Over on this sign up page, you can get a $45,000 bonus just by trading crypto on BTNX using that link. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also get deposit bonuses. Like, for example, if you deposit just $100, you get a $20 bonus. If you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your BTNX account, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And if you don't want BTNX for whatever reason, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, where you can also claim massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 in trading bonuses, and also a $30 sign up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT just by depositing crypto over on 2bit using that link. So once again, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out, the first and second link below this video. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at this Bitcoin price chart right here on the 6-hour time frame, we're still finding a lot of resistance in this exact price range that I've been warning about many times over the last few days, and that's sitting in between around 108.5k to 109,000. And so obviously the moment we broke out above this previous area of resistance, which is now acting as support in between 106,000 to 107,000, the moment we saw that breakout there, I said, once again, the next resistance, the next point where the price would likely start to struggle at and possibly reject from, is this range in between 108.5k to 109,000. So obviously that's exactly playing out right now. We are indeed struggling in that area. But if we ultimately confirm a breakout, ideally above 109,000, 109,000 with a candle close above that level. In that situation, the next short-term area of resistance on this chart right here is at around 110,000 to 110.5k, and then above that we could find a bit of resistance around the all-time high at roughly around 112,000. And as for short-term support, I'd now expect a lot of support in the short term in this area right here, in between 106,000 to 107,000 based on previous resistance, which recently flipped into new support. But if we were to see a confirmed break with candle closes back below around 106,000, in that situation, we could likely see a continued bearish move down towards around 103.5k to 104,000 as the next important area of support. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that we still have a lot of liquidity building just above the price of Bitcoin at approximately 109,000. So we never actually took out that liquidity. We got very close to 109,000, but we never actually broke above that 109k level to take out that liquidity. And so ultimately, that is still sitting there on the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, which means it's still a price target and something to pay attention to, because usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's a lot of liquidity. So keep that in mind. But obviously between now and 109,000, we still have this area of resistance and also now this descending line of resistance, which is starting to come in just below 109,000. And so as always, even if we have a certain price target in play, we cannot ignore other points of resistance where the price will most likely struggle at. But that's all really talking about the shorter term, obviously just looking at short-term support and resistance, bouncing from support, rejecting from resistance, vice versa. And ultimately, when we're zooming out, once again, we are lacking momentum on the larger time frame. So it's honestly quite likely we could just stay in a bit more of a sideways price range for a little longer, maybe over the coming weeks. But believe it or not, you can actually make a lot of easy profits during a sideways price range like this. And if you want to know how to do that, then stick around to the end of this video to find out more. But first, taking a quick look at Ethereum on the daily time frame. And Ethereum is still holding above this key level on the price chart and recently had another slight little push towards the upside, but ran into key short-term resistance that I've been warning about here on the channel at around 2,500. And so continue to expect a lot of resistance, at least in the short term, at roughly 2.5k and slightly above 2.5k, around 2510 to 2520. And then above that, the next significant area of resistance is in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. And as for significant support to pay attention to, once again, we're still holding above this key level right here, sitting at close to 2.4k, really just under 2.4k. So more specifically around 2380 to 2390. So once again, close to 2.4k. That is the key support to focus on, at least for now. And if we were to see a confirmed break with daily candle closes back below that area, in that situation, we have significant support all the way down here at close to 2.1k. But despite the fact that Ethereum is still holding above this key level of support here on the daily time frame, also, on the daily time frame, we still have a bearish divergence to watch out for, which technically, at least for now, we've not really seen a strong invalidation signal to properly invalidate the bearish divergence. And so this means it's still likely influencing the price in the short term, which means we should not necessarily expect a significant amount of bullish momentum. So yes, we can see short-term bullish moves here and there, but ultimately we're simply lacking momentum. And that's especially the case if Bitcoin is lacking momentum. As we can see, Bitcoin just over the last 1 day or so is basically just been chopping around sideways between support and resistance. So if Bitcoin is doing this, and especially if we have a bearish divergence for Ethereum and a lot of the altcoins will likely play out something similar in the short term, just lacking momentum to either direction, at least for now. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the daily time frame, it's a very similar situation for Solana, because obviously we just recently broke out above a very important area on the price chart, which was this area in between 143 to 146. And it is good news for Solana, at least in the short term, that we're holding above this area, and I'd now expect support in this area if we were to see a retest or a pullback here in the short term. But when it comes to resistance, we're now starting to run into resistance at close to 154 to 155, as I've already been talking about for days now on the channel. And above that, I would expect more resistance at around 158 and significant resistance at around 167. And honestly, over the next couple of days, considering the significance of the breakout above this very significant area on the price chart, structure in between 143 to 146, considering we've just recently broke out above that level, honestly, I'll not be surprised if we continue to see a little bit more of a bullish relief here over the next few days to test some of these levels of resistance that I just mentioned. And once again, we're already starting to test this 154 level, but if we can break out above 154, then expect to move up towards around 158. Then obviously only if we break out above that level, expect to move towards this local high at around 167. But overall, in the immediate short term, when we're talking about the next few days, possibly over the next week or so, I'm slightly more bullish than I am bearish for Solana just in the shorter term here. But when we're zooming out, looking at the larger price structure over a period of multiple weeks, if not months, technically this larger price structure is still pointing in the bearish direction. So even if we see a little bit more of a bullish relief over the next few days, maybe for 1 week, just consider the fact that at least for now, we've not really confirmed a proper reversal, a strong reversal out of this bearish trend, at least not yet. And as I always say, keep an eye on what Bitcoin is doing, because if Bitcoin is lacking momentum in the short term, this can influence a lot of the altcoins. So once again, just keep that in mind. It is likely we could be lacking momentum in the short term. So even if we continue a little bit more of a bullish relief here, don't necessarily expect significant momentum straight to the upside like this if Bitcoin is showing weakness. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 12-hour time frame, it's a similar situation for XRP. The price is now running into this key Fibonacci level of resistance, sitting at around 219 to 220 approximately. And just over the last 1 day, we actually saw a candle close on the 12-hour time frame slightly above 220, less than a cent above 220. So we actually saw a small little fake out here, but overall we don't really have a lot of momentum to actually see a follow through here. And so we can see that the very next candle right here, the very next 12-hour candle close, confirmed back below $2.19. So once again, for now, we're still struggling around this area at roughly 219 to around 221, just adjusting that resistance here, considering the latest candle closes. But once again, like I just said for Solana and Ethereum, despite the recent breakouts above these key levels on the price chart, we're honestly not seeing a lot of momentum in the market. So even if we continue a little bit more of a bullish relief, don't necessarily expect a massive high momentum movement towards the upside like this, for example, at least not right now. Obviously, at some point in the future, we'll see another move like that, but currently we're simply just lacking the momentum. And if we can ultimately confirm a breakout and actually hold above that area, ideally flip it into new support, in that situation, the next short-term resistance I'll be watching is at approximately 225 based on these highs right here. And then above that, we have some major resistance in between around 231 to 235 approximately based on these highs right here. And as for support, if we were to see a further rejection here, I'd expect a lot of support in between around $2.05 to $2.10 and significant support in between around 192 to 195 if we were to first break below this area. But for now, once again, expect a lot of support in between $2.05 to $2.10. But overall, in terms of the momentum or the trend, at least for now in the shorter term, we're looking very neutral, as we can see, just bouncing around sideways in a relatively sideways price range. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the 12-hour time frame, it's a somewhat similar situation for Chainlink. Obviously, the immediate short term is looking slightly more bullish than it is bearish, considering the immediate short term higher low and now higher high in the price. But when we're looking at the much larger price structure on the 12-hour or the daily time frame, technically we're still within a larger bearish trend until confirmed otherwise. And just like I said for XRP, over the last 1 day, Chainlink also saw a slight little fake out above this key level of resistance. But with that being said, the resistance I've been talking about is really in between 1360 to 1370, and if we're looking at where the candle close actually confirmed, it was pretty much right on 1370, around 1371, so basically around 1 cent above the resistance I've been talking about. But as we can see, the very next candle close confirmed well below that area, clearly confirming it as just a fake out and not a proper confirmed breakout. Because obviously when we're talking about a confirmed breakout, if we come in for a retest, we then need to hold that previous resistance as new support to actually properly confirm the breakout. If we break back below the point of resistance, that just invalidates the breakout altogether. And so obviously we're still finding a lot of resistance around that area on the price chart at roughly 1360 to 1370, give or take. And I'd expect more resistance at around 1440 to 1450, give or take, and major resistance in between around 1530 to 1550. And honestly, the price of Chainlink is looking most similar to what I said for the price of Solana. In the immediate short term, we're actually looking slightly more bullish than we are bearish, so it is quite likely we could see a slight little push up in the short term for Chainlink and Solana. But honestly, considering the short-term resistance and the lack in momentum, I'd not expect a significant bullish move, maybe just a little bit more of a slight bullish relief. But once again, if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities, definitely check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, whether we're bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit in all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action, which is what we're seeing right now. But once again, that's pretty much everything I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next video.